Hello, everybody. Welcome to the I Am IT Geek YouTube channel. My name is Shabazz Dan, and as ever, I am the IT Geek. Welcome back to another episode in my career journey series. So this is episode, I want to say episode 4 that you'll be seeing. And up until now, let me just give you a recap. The first episode was more about how I got started in tech and where my passion for tech kind of grew and where it all started. So that was kind of my placement year within my degree at Attack, and then kind of mentioned some of the experiences and how I interviewed and that kind of story behind that. And then kind of went on to talk about my first actual tech job post degree, which was at a company at the time. They were called Spice Holdings, or the IT&T Group. And kind of that time, in my life, really, I was quite young, 20 odd, 22. I got married very young as well. And, I kind of started off on a first line support job and then moved on to second line. But then, because of personal reasons, I needed a bit more stability in my life, less traveling at the time. I kind of decided to move on. And that brings us to episode 3, where I spoke about my time at IDAS Architects. And that was quite tough, if I'm honest, because I transitioned from like doing a field engineer's job where I was traveling all the time, and I was kind of really enjoying traveling and seeing the UK. And I kind of had to go to like a desk job, which was fine, but it took me a bit of time to transition to that and being sort of less hands-on and more kind of support over the phone. But again, really enjoyed my time at IDAS, and I'm really thankful for the people that I met there. Neil Ewing, James Posner I mentioned, Sajid Ali, and then Andy Botchway, people like that. So I suppose that brings us on to episode 4. So the time, I kind of said my decision to leave IDAS was mainly because I'd stagnated. I wasn't growing as an IT professional. And I think it was about a 2-year stint where I just literally didn't learn anything. I was kind of just comfortable in my role, wasn't learning any new technologies. And it got to the stage where I started to resent the place I worked, which I think is the wrong attitude to have. And that brought me on to... this topic is actually going to be a 2-part episode, because my time at Concord, which is what I'm going to talk about, Concord Technology Group, was kind of where my passion for cloud grew and started. So again, I owe Concord a lot. And you might notice that I'm saying that I've had a lot of help through my career. People seem to think, I've done it all myself. People, some people have that sort of attitude but you don't realize, there's a lot of... And I've tried to mention those people in my career. I mentioned David Holborn, Steve Ritchie. I mentioned Mohammed Yassin, Cameron Ahmed, Asad Malik. These are people that I've mentioned. I've mentioned them because they had an influence in my career and they've helped me along my journey. I've not got here on my own. I'm not I'm not so big-headed that I think that I've got here on my own. Not at all. So there's two real parts to my Concord. Again, I was there almost 6 years. So the first part, I kind of want to discuss how I got started. And it's another great interview story, if I'm honest with you. I had some interesting interviews in my time, and again, I want to give some some pointers to people who are young and looking to interview and get in the tech industry. So I was quite open with my boss at the time, who was Sajid Ali. Sajid Aslam, not Sajid Ali. That's Sajid Aslam. Around that I need to move on. I've stagnated. So I was very open with it that I'm going to be looking for a new role, and he was fully supportive of that. And when I was interviewing again, I had loads of interviews for different places, and just didn't seem to fit. I didn't either fit them, or when I kind of looked into the role interview after the interview, I thought, it's not really a good fit for me. And then the interview for Concord Technology Group came along, and it was a consultancy role. So I'd never done consultancy, remember, never been a consultant. I've always done support roles. So this first, straight off the bat, I wasn't sure. Oh God, am I going to be the right fit for this? But I thought, I'm going to go in the interview. It'll be a good experience. I'm all about experience as well. The more interviews you go, the more experience you get, etc., etc. You get asked different questions. So it was Ramzan when I went. It was Ramadan for those people who don't pronounce it correctly. But it was Ramzan when I went. So I was fasting, and I remember at IDAS we had. I was starting later in my day because it was like the middle of August, I think. And it was like the height of fasting. The heat was low. There's long fasts, like 19-hour fasts, And I went to my interview first thing in the morning because I didn't start my job until like 11, half 11, and I finished at 8 p.m. Anyway, so I went in the morning, was in Wakefield, went all, suited and booted up. And it was my first interview with them, and I met. I'd had a phone interview. Sorry, already. I had a phone interview on the bus on the way into work one day, about a few days before that, and I spoke to again someone who was very influenced in the start of my career at Concord Technology Group, Jason Whitaker. Big shout out to Jason. I will tag him in the post, obviously, and I'll put his LinkedIn on the description of the video. So yeah, so I had a phone interview with Jason, and the thing was, so from what I understand, I came across very passionate, and I've been passionate about tech, but unfortunately, I'd lost that in my job, while I was working at IDAS towards the end, and I wanted to regain that, and I was quite clear with that. So I used to be really passionate about tech, and I've kind of lost that. I want to regain that. I want to be in a role where I can learn. And he was really receptive to that, and so he said, I want to see you for an interview. So I went for the interview in person, and I was obviously. I'm always nervous. I'm always nervous before I talk on do these public speaking, when I'm at a user group or I'm at an event and I'm talking, I'm always nervous. I was very nervous. I went to the interview, and again, I think again, I came across very passionate about the technology that I wanted to learn, and passionate about being in tech, being in IT, what I've learned, what I want to do in my career. And he appreciated that, I think. And from what he tells me, the only reason I got hired was because I was passionate and of my personality, and I think in the interview that came across. Now, one thing he said to me, and I give this advice to people all the time, younger people. I'm 39, so I'm not that old, but I mean people who are starting off in tech. I always say, you can teach and learn skills. You can learn skills, all these exams. You can learn Microsoft certifications, AWS, whatever. You can learn those things. Got a book, got a video, learn it. What you can't teach is a personality. That's something that you just have, and it's personal to you. So what my advice, again, this is a little snippet to people, again, in your interviews, if you're young, you're up and coming in tech, in your interviews, try and be passionate about what your topic. So if you're a developer, if you're in infrastructure, if you're cloud, whatever, networking, try and show your personality in your interview, because at the end of the day, that's, in this day and age now, with the amount of people that have certifications, the experience, it's your personality that's going to set you aside. I interview people for Net Company, so and one of the key things I look for is their personality. Are they going to be able to fit into the culture of the company I work in? And that is key, and I think that's the reason why Jason hired me. And he'll tell you himself, I came across really passionate. I was bubbly. And that's me. That's who I am, and that's how I came across. And I think I come across like that in my videos. So yeah, try and be yourself and try and show your personality in your interviews. That would be my advice to anybody who's up and coming in tech and has not done many interviews. Be yourself, show your passion and for the tech, and show your personality. And if that comes out, you've got a good chance of getting the job. Because again, I was very clear in my interview with Jason. I said I've got no consultancy experience. I've done loads of support on VMware, on Exchange, all the main technologies at the time. The latest versions as well, I'd done support on, so I knew how they worked, I knew how they broke, I knew how to fix them, but I just didn't know how to, deploy them, so to speak, in an enterprise environment. Anyway, I think I might have been on the way home, and I got a call. I think I might have been on the way to work. Went home, got dressed, went to work. I think I got a call. Literally, Jason decided then and there. And again, a couple more people I'll shout out during the video. Right now, actually, Maria, who I worked with, big shout out to Maria, still a very close friend of mine. She remembers Jason coming back into the office and saying, "Oh, I found him. I found the person who's going to be the next member of our team." So it's to be part of the professional services team. And again, I think you mentioned the same thing to again, who's been a mentor for me as well, Carl McDade. Massive shout out to Carl. And that was that's how that went. So another funny interview story. I didn't get hired on my technical ability. I got hired on my personality. So let that be a note for you all. If you're interviewing, just try and be yourself. Show your personality and show your passion. And so I started I left I left IDAS, and I left on really good terms again. And again, that proved and that showed with my Australian visa stuff. I contacted IDAS, and they were really helpful and helped me a lot. So that shows, again, always finish on good terms. You never know why you might need somebody. Tech is a small world. So kind of got started at Concord, and I initially, again, I was more of the role was a managed service consultant, and I was very junior in that team. Another fun story. I actually took a pay cut to go to Concord, and this is another thing I wanted to touch on. That sometimes you need to make the right move for your career path. It's a marathon the way I see it. So the way I saw it was I was taking a little bit of a pay cut now, but the way I saw it, and this is true. This ended up being true that my future earnings, how I have more potential to earn more money in this role. So I might be starting off less money now, but down the line I will have more earning potential. My ceiling has risen basically. I was at the ceiling at IDAS. Here my ceiling has risen. So I took a pay cut, and I again I've recommended that to people as well. So if you've got to take a pay cut for like a year, so be it. But if it means your ceiling of earning potential has risen, then you need to you can earn double what you were on at that last place in 2-3 years time. Go for it. Why not? And I'm always like, because I always like to build something. I always like to stay long term somewhere. I was at IDA 6 years. I was at Concord 6 years. So this Concord part is going to be a couple of videos because there's so much that happened in my career here. And I met so many good people. So I've mentioned obviously Jason Whitaker. I've mentioned Carl Dane. I've mentioned Maria Pop. Very influential in my, especially the start of my career at Concord. Very much took me under their wing. Jason and Carl's younger than me, and he was from a technical perspective though. He'd done a lot. He was a solutions architect there, so he's very young but very knowledgeable, and he kind of took me under his wing and kind of taught me the sort of consultancy ropes, as it were. And I initially drifted towards networking. When I joined, again at IDAS, I'd made a conscious decision that I was going to start enjoying tech again. I wanted to start learning. So at night school after my work, I was doing my CCNA. I was learning. I was going to Leeds. There's a Leeds Computer College, I think, in Leeds somewhere, top of Leeds, central Leeds, and I was doing CCNA. And I thought, networking was important at the time. I'd done a lot of networking, and I was, I thought, I want to be certified in this. It's a really, it's an important concept in infrastructure. So I started doing my CCNA at night school, and again, that's something that I felt I had to do to be able to move forward in my career. My CCNA qualification was very important to me at the time. So I kind of fell into a networking role at the time, and I was doing a lot of, network designs, network in configurations, HP Aruba kit, Cisco kit, firewall, stuff like that, WatchGuard firewalls. I ended up getting WatchGuard certified. I was like the WatchGuard specialist after a couple of years. And it was, it was some of the best. Honestly, I really enjoyed it. I was traveling again, not as much though. Again, you got to remember, I was nearly 7 years. I've been married at that point now, so I was a bit more established. We'd had a child as well by then, Zoya. My daughter had been born, so I was ready to start traveling, and I started traveling a bit. Not as much as I did. It wasn't every day. It was maybe a couple, 3-4 times a month, maybe, but it was still local traveling as well, day travel. And again, I was really enjoying it, and the people at Concord were just amazing, and they are still amazing people. So for this part one of Concord, that's kind of how I got started at Concord. I fell into like a network specialist role, and that's kind of where I want to end it here. In fact, so it's a bit. I don't want to go too long in this episode. I want to do shorter episodes. There are a lot of more people at Concord that I want to shout out, but I'll do it in later videos because again, the way I'll leave it here is. In the next episode, bit of a cliffhanger. There was a point. It was 2016, and unfortunately, so this I might get a bit emotional. I'm not promising I won't cry, but my dad became very ill, and he ended up passing away. So what the way Concord helped me at that time, I really want to go into a bit of detail about it. So I'll do that in the next episode. But in 2016, so let's say from a timeline perspective, we're in 2016 when I'm ending this. And next video I'll explain how kind of all the rest of it happened, and I think this might be another video after that for Concord and how it ended and the reasons why. So yeah, that's it. How did you get started? And what I'd like to know from people, how did you get started in consultancy specifically? So ask people how did they get started in tech, but for those people that are in consultancy, what was your first consultancy job? That'd be interesting to know. So drop a comment in the video. Let me know, what your first consultancy role was, what you were doing, and has anyone got any cool interview stories? I've named a couple of my cool interview stories. Has anybody got any cool interview stories they want to? Again, in the comments, let me know. So thank you for watching. I hope you're enjoying this look at my career. Like I said, it's a bit more personal. I've been working on some tech content as well, so don't worry, I'm going to go back to tech. So yeah, hopefully that'll be a follow on from this series. So yeah, thank you very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.